I want to start today's video with a definition: Luddite. For anyone who isn't aware, Luddite is a derogatory term originating in 19th century England, which specifically refers to a group of workmen who were destroying new automation machinery. But much more broadly, in a modern context, it's commonly used now to describe someone who is generally opposed to new technology. People call me this practically every day, and while I disagree with the sentiment that they probably have while doing so, the truth is I am viscerally against the idea that AI and machine learning should ever be widely used in modern social situations. Right now, as I make this video, human cognition is being rapidly reduced, almost aggressively reduced, I would say, by a variety of technological tools, but chief among them are what we call large language models, LLMs. I'm not going to sit here and somehow pretend that there's nothing valuable about these programs. There is, with new applications being developed almost daily at this point. But the usage of this technology in a peer-to-peer social context isn't just a slippery slope kind of issue. It's an existential threat to authentic human connections, where the logical extreme of that trend is a chip in your brain, and the total atrophy of people's ability to genuinely socialize or connect with each other. That too. Jumping right in, I've used this example before, so I'll be very brief with it. But Gemini, the large language model being developed by Google, has specifically been advertised as something that you can rely on in awkward social situations. The marketing material for this product prominently features teenagers doing things like asking, "What's a good excuse to cancel dinner with my friends?" while sitting right in front of their friends. Obviously, it's a bit of a joke for the commercial, right? But the implication is that you can use this program to get advice on what to do or what to say when you feel uncomfortable interacting with other people. And that is the type of usage that I have a severe problem with. It's not the only thing I have a problem with, by the way, hence the term Luddite that people sometimes use for me. But that's the topic for today: human-to-human social interactions. Another good example of how widespread the issue is about to become, or rather is actively becoming right now, that is, before we talk about Cluey, which is the main subject of the video. Another example would be Match Group. Match Group, as a parent company, owns pretty much every single dating application or website that you've ever heard of, and according to their chief executive, Bernard Kim, referencing AI in late 2024, quote, "This technology is revolutionary for dating, and we're bringing it to life across our entire portfolio. I envision AI to be felt through the entire experience, influencing everything from profile creation to matching and connecting for dates, literally everything," end quote. Of course, some people out there do obviously realize how dangerous that will be, having a program construct your profile, write your bio, even send messages for you, which is part of what they want to try doing with it. But far beyond even that kind of damaging application, today we're talking about a complete mask-off type of product, which also happens to have a very interesting origin story, where the entire stated purpose, manifesto, they did deliberately call it a manifesto, I'm not kidding, and design of this product is intended to replace human thinking in every social situation possible, with a catchphrase that literally states, quote, "We want to cheat on everything." Let's get to it. But before we actually discuss what Cluey is, we need to talk about where it came from, because I think talking about how it came to exist in the first place is actually critical for understanding why it feels so intentionally damaging in its design. This right here is Roy Lee, the founder of Cluey, and by every metric I can find, he's brilliant. However, as is often true with brilliant people, he also seems prone to be combative with authority. By far, the most notorious thing that Roy Lee has done, excluding Cluey, of course, was make this, something called Interview Coder. Interview Coder, as the name would indicate, is a program that automates a process called leet code interviews. But if we're going to properly understand why Cluey is literally designed to cheat on everything, we need to first understand what those are. Leet code interviews are a controversial and somewhat infamous type of software job interview. In essence, applicants are given some sort of algorithmic or data structure challenge when they apply to work at like Amazon or Google or companies like that. And then they're required to solve that problem that they're given in a specific time frame. But you don't have to look very far before you start finding some pretty widespread dissatisfaction with the entire process. A lot of people in the job field think that these interviews, these leet code interviews, are just obsolete, irrelevant, and generally unfair, which is where the motivation to make something that cheats on them probably originally came from. To be completely honest, I don't know enough about software job interviews to comment on whether or not the entire process really is irrelevant or unnecessary, but there's certainly a lot of qualified people who think so, such as Roy Lee, which led to a very interesting situation. Roughly in February of 2025, Roy Lee interviewed with Amazon for a software development position and deliberately used his program, Interview Coder, to cheat through the process. He actually posted the entire interview publicly on YouTube after his method of cheating had successfully landed him a job offer for the position, which kicked off a series of dominoes afterward. First, Amazon took the interview down through a copyright claim. It's no longer public. But much more importantly than that, someone from the Amazon team that Roy interviewed for, presumably a high-ranking executive of some kind, approached Columbia University, which resulted in Roy Lee being suspended from the university for an entire year. Setting aside my personal opinions about all of this, I really don't think that kind of creativity should be punished. If anything, it's emblematic of someone you should want to hire for advanced software coding positions. But setting that aside, after being suspended from Columbia University, Roy Lee took to social media and said, quote, "I just got kicked out of Columbia for taking a stand against elite code interviews. Here's the whole story," end quote. That was in March of 2025. The whole thing happened from about the 11th to the 26th, but 1 month later, April 20th to be precise, Roy Lee came back from all of it with a brand new product called Cluey. I'm just going to read from the manifesto on Cluey's website right now, and I do think it's hilarious that they called it a manifesto and not like a product vision or outline or description or information, like nothing like that. A manifesto. They chose that word. But I'm just going to read from it to give you an impression of what the product is actually intended to be. Remember, this was designed and launched by an ex-Columbia student after he cheated, in his own words, not mine, during an Amazon job interview, and then supposedly received $5.3 million in venture capital led by Abstract Ventures. Anyway, here's the manifesto. Quote, "We want to cheat on everything. Yup, you heard that right. Sales calls, meetings, negotiations. If there's a faster way to win, we'll take it. We built Cluey so you never have to think alone again. It sees your screen, hears your audio, feeds you answers in real time. While others guess, you're already right. And yes, the world will call it cheating, but so was the calculator, so was spell check, so was Google. Every time technology makes us smarter, the world panics. Then it adapts, then it forgets, and suddenly it's normal." End quote. Heck of a modus operandi, isn't it? But the really interesting thing is that it's not necessarily wrong. I still remember the times where my teachers, when I was younger, would tell me, "You won't always have a calculator, you better learn your mental math." But now I do always have a calculator in my pocket on my phone. However, being able to do basic to moderate mental math is incredibly useful in a variety of circumstances. There's a place for that kind of tool, obviously, spell check, calculators, etc. But Cluey is not a calculator, and the thing it's replacing isn't just good to have sometimes, like mental math skills. It's replacing integral social behavior that absolutely should not be replaced. That probably sounds dramatic, I get it, okay? But watch the trailer. The way that they chose to advertise this product is by using it on a date between two people, okay? That was a choice. The kid sits there, awkwardly waiting for an AI to tell him what fake age that he should reply to this girl that he then systematically deceives. She makes a comment about how she didn't know he was such an art guy because he got the answers from his little ChatGPT glasses. Throughout the marketing video, throughout the whole thing, he relies on Cluey to tell him basic integral facts about his own personality, who he is as a person, purely so that he can cheat on this date and say what? Better things, so that he can manufacture the lowest common denominator of human interaction in order to get laid? Or maybe it's just rage bait, simple viral marketing. That could be true. Sadly, I don't think it's just rage bait, because if you read further in the manifesto, it says this, quote, "Why memorize facts, write code, research anything when a model can do it in seconds? The best communicator, the best analyst, the best problem solver is now the one who knows how to ask the right question. The future won't reward effort, it'll reward leverage. So start cheating, because when everyone does, no one is." End quote. Yeah, so that's what's called a race to the bottom. Capitalism does intrinsically reward cheating, if that cheating is undetectable at least, hence the need for certain regulations. But the sentiment that everyone cheats, therefore it's not even cheating at all, is like kind of horrifying. Cluey represents a spiteful inversion of how things should work in favor of how they would eventually become, inevitably, if everyone was an unethical piece of shit. Don't believe me? Apply this logic to practically any other sector or industry in the world, and it gets exceedingly obvious. Let's do video games because I just like video games. If everyone cheats, no one is. Yeah, so everyone's hacking because hacking gives an immediate, tangible advantage to people that either lack skill, knowledge, or both. Everyone's doing it. Therefore, hacking is no longer wrong. It's actually a good thing. Cool. That's effectively what he's saying. Except there's a problem with that because not only would this immediately signal the death of meritocracy, it would simply come down to the quality and advancement of the cheat program that you're individually paying for, but video games also come with a variety of skills attached to them if you play at a high level. There's plenty of documentation about this, but things like reflexes, precision, problem solving, critical thinking, these are all skill sets and thought patterns that are strengthened by certain video games. If you made cheat programs ubiquitous, you would weaken those skill sets, or rather, fail to see them ever develop from the activity in the first place for anyone participating in those very same video games. Because the cheat program is doing the aiming for you. It's doing the selections, the thinking, and the problem solving instead of you, which hopefully begins demonstrating the problem. Being subjected to adverse situations where you don't know the answers, especially in a social context on a date, for an interview, etc., being placed in situations like that strengthens your ability to adapt. It's like working out. You do something uncomfortable so that you have the strength to do it much more easily in the future. And much the same way ubiquitous cheating in video games would destroy the ability for anyone to really show individual skill of any kind, widespread usage of products like Cluey would degrade the ability for people to have normal, basic human interactions. Sure, if your little glasses are working, you would be fine, probably, just spitting out facts about art or history so the girl across from you thinks that you're smart. But what happens when you don't have them? I'm sure the counter argument will be, you'll always have your glasses because you always have your phone, don't you? So I'll never have to go without them. But even if that were true, you're no longer getting to know people, and they're no longer getting to know you. Instead of having real connections, you're just a passenger, really, is what you are, spitting out algorithmically generated lines that the program thinks the other person wants to hear, which is one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen or heard of. That's already bad, but there's another dimension here. This kind of feed me the answer sort of mentality logically has to remain undetectable. No one wants to date ChatGPT. No one wants to hire ChatGPT if it's really just masquerading as a person, right? It's basically ChatGPT and you're the skin suit, by the way, which is horrifying. But anyway, nobody wants to hire that for certain job positions at least. So what happens when they start prohibiting your little personality glasses? Well, you have to shift. You have to find a new way to keep the crutch while avoiding detection, which is yet another slippery slope, likely ending with some sort of implanted chip or subdermal computer, all for the purpose of letting a program feed you information which supplants, replaces, or at the very least, degrades your own ability to speak to and connect with other people on a human level. Without getting too spiritual here, I do believe in the concept generally of good and evil, and this mindset is deeply corrosive, so much so that I would say with complete confidence, this is evil. I fully understand the argument that AI can be a force multiplier, so to speak, for certain careers, automating repetition, enhancing productivity, whatever, yes, sure, I've heard it all. But that's not what this is. Cluey represents the idea that AI isn't just a force multiplier. It's a replacement for human personality. Using Cluey in this way, even going back to Gemini and other commercials where teens are asking it for excuses to not see their friends, Cluey is certainly not the only guilty party here. But using any application in this way is replacing a giant chunk of what it means to even be human. Hiding behind the empty pontifications about progress and value, it's really just built on fear. Fear of being wrong about something, which can be deeply, incredibly uncomfortable. Fear about not being liked, which is a whole lot easier if you never cared in the first place. Or fear of failure in the face of honest effort, which is almost completely mitigated when you turn yourself into a soulless middleman. Being disliked, passed over, or just wrong wouldn't feel nearly as bad, I don't think, if you were just spitting out answers from ChatGPT instead of being a person. They didn't reject you, after all, they rejected those answers from the program. It's just incompatibility or something wrong with them because you did everything right by not doing anything. It's a hyper-exaggeration of snowflake laziness, never wanting to be uncomfortable, right? The whole snowflake thing. It's personified here buy a product after the founders were disciplined for circumventing Amazon's job interview process, which you may think is horrible and you probably think it needs to be updated, but you broke the rules and you got disciplined. It does happen. In a way, it's kind of funny to me. The whole thing feels like spite, because it probably is generally spiteful. Oh, you say I'm cheating? I got in trouble? Okay, fine. Let's cheat on everything all the time forever. It's a kid who got told no, and then says, well, now I'm going to do it even more. But worse than just a child, which is typically harmless in that type of situation, it's a real product with real funding and millions upon millions upon millions of views. People will use it in this way. They'll think to themselves, haha, look at me, I have the answers, I'm so smart, while missing out on basic social interaction skills, which are sadly already painfully underdeveloped in a growing portion of the adult world. Ultimately, products like Cluey, which is just one example for today, keep that in mind, are a direct contributing factor behind the collapse of human thinking. They don't enhance the human experience, they replace it. And if having that opinion makes me a Luddite, as people love to say, then I accept it with pride. I fully understand that there will be advancements from AI which massively improve the world of human socialization, like a real-time translation earbud or something like that, made possible by AI programs, where you can listen to another language, someone speaking another language, and have it translated at the same time with that person's voice right into your ear. That would be incredibly valuable. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I wish I had that already. But Cluey? No. Cluey is a dark example of technological nihilism, wrapped up and very nicely packaged for anyone who suffers from laziness, fear, and general insecurity. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below, a special VPN deal, locals and Patreon for monthly memberships, merchandise, social media, etc., etc. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.